In the suffocating hush of street, Mary's basement, where the air hung heavy with the scent of stale coffee and whispered judgments. Eleanor Harper's world shattered like fragile stained glass under a careless boot. Her son Sean, just 16 and trembling in the dim flicker of a single bare bulb, had confessed at all his heart's secret truth that twisted like a thorn in the side of their devout little Ohio town. "Mom," he'd whispered, voice cracking like dry autumn leaves. "I'm gay." And in that instant, the church bells tolling above them mocked her with their hollow peal, sealing a pact of deception that would bind her soul for years. Eleanor's hands, calloused from years of folding bulletins and cradling her family's fragile dreams, clenched into fists at her sides. She wanted to pull him close, to shield his soft curls from the storm she knew was coming, the elders' fire and brimstone sermons, the sideways glares from neighbors who'd once shared potluck casseroles without a second thought. But survival in Willow Creek demanded masks, and so she forged hers in the fire of feigned outrage, her voice rising sharp and brittle. "Sean, you can't say that here. Not ever. Do you hear me? This thing inside you, it's a sin. A curse we'll pray away." The lie burned her throat like swallowed coals, but it was the only armor she could give him against the congregation's unyielding wrath. From that raw confession in the church underbelly, their lives unraveled and rewove in the quiet rhythms of a town too small for secrets. Willow Creek, Ohio, clung to the banks of the winding Muskingum River like a forgotten hymn, its clapboard houses and white-steepled churches standing sentinel over fields of corn that whispered promises of harvest but delivered only the weight of tradition. Eleanor, 42 and widowed these 5 years since Tom's heart gave out mid-sermon, had raised Sean alone in the shadow of street Mary's spire. She worked double shifts at the diner, her smile a practiced curve for the regulars who quoted Leviticus over their eggs, all while her nights blurred into prayers that God might soften the edges of a world bent on breaking her boy. Sean, with his quick laugh that echoed like summer fireflies and eyes that held the depth of untrodden rivers, had always been her light. Born under a harvest moon in the county hospital, he'd toddled after her through the church nursery, his tiny fingers tracing Bible verses on felt boards. But puberty had crept in like fog off the river, bringing with it questions that no youth group retreat could answer. At 14, he'd lingered too long over the broad shoulders of the quarterback during Friday night lights, his cheeks flushing not with envy, but with an ache he couldn't name. By 15, stolen glances at the library's dog-eared copies of forbidden stories, tales of boys loving boys in far-off cities, had planted seeds of terror and tentative hope in his chest. That basement night marked the fracture. Elder Harlan, the pastor's right hand with a voice like grinding gravel, had cornered Sean after youth Bible study, his Bible thumping against a folding table as he railed about the abomination that mocketh desolation. Sean, cornered and desperate, had bolted down the stairs to find Eleanor sorting linens for the next fellowship supper. The words tumbled out in a rush, his face pale as milkweed silk, and Eleanor's heart cleaved in two. She saw not sin, but her child vulnerable, aching for acceptance in a place that peddled love laced with thorns. In the days that followed, Eleanor's deception took root like bindweed in cracked soil. At the next prayer circle, when Harlan's wife, Miriam, plucked her tongue over those Hollywood perversions ruining our youth, Eleanor nodded vigorously, her voice laced with a venom that masked her nausea. "It's a plague on our families," she declared, her eyes fixed on the quilted circle of women, each stitch a testament to their shared illusions. "We must stand firm, sisters, or lose our boys to the devil's whisper." The words echoed in her ears long after. A poison she swallowed to spare Sean the lash of excommunication, the isolation that could drive a sensitive soul to darker edges. Sean felt the shift like a chill wind through the floorboards of their modest bungalow. Dinners grew silent, save for the clink of forks on chipped plates. Eleanor's gaze skimming over him as if he were a ghost in his own home. "Why, Mom?" he'd pleaded one evening, the screen door banging shut behind him after a furtive walk by the river, where fireflies danced like fleeting freedoms. "Why pretend you hate me like this?" She turned from the sink, suds dripping from her elbows like unshed tears, and pulled him into an embrace that smelled of dish soap and unspoken apologies. "I don't hate you, baby," she murmured into his hair, her voice a fragile thread. "I hate what they'd do to you if they knew. This town's grace is a thin veil over cruelty, and I'll wear this mask till it chokes me, if it keeps you safe." As autumn leaves turned to gold and then to mulch underfoot, Sean's world narrowed to stolen moments of self. He buried his journals deep in the floor vent, pages filled with poetry that bled ink like open windsodes to the curve of a classmate's jaw. Dreams of cities where love didn't hide in shadows. School became a minefield, the locker room taunts from boys who slung fag like dodgeballs, the pitying smiles from teachers who'd overheard whispers. Yet in the art room, under the watchful eye of Ms. Delaney, a transplant from Cleveland with tattoos peeking from her sleeves, Sean found a fragile sanctuary. Charcoal sketches of anonymous figures intertwined. There forms a silent rebellion against the straight lines of his life. Eleanor watched from afar, her diner shifts ending in bone-deep fatigue, but her vigilance sharp as a paring knife. She volunteered for every church committee, her opinions on moral decay quoted in the town newsletter, building a fortress of hypocrisy around her son. Inside, doubt gnawed at her like river erosion. Nights found her on her knees by the bed, not in prayer, but in quiet sobs, begging forgiveness from a God who felt distant as the stars over cornfields. "Protect him, Lord," she'd whisper, "not from who he is, but from those who wield your name like a weapon." Winter clamped down on Willow Creek with iron fists, snow blanketing the town in a hush that amplified every creak of isolation. Sean's 16th birthday passed unmarked, save for a lopsided cake from the diner and Eleanor's forced cheer, her eyes hollow as the ornaments on their sagging tree. Harlan's sermons grew fiercer, thundering from the pulpit about Sodom's fall, his finger jabbing the air like accusation. Sean shrank in the pew, his knuckles white on the hymnal, while Eleanor squeezed his hand under cover of darkness. A Morse code of endurance. "Hold on. We're getting through." But endurance has its fractures. One February evening, as icicles wept from the eaves, Sean returned from a youth group ski trip pale and withdrawn, his ski jacket clutched like a shield. In the kitchen, steam rising from a pot of chili like fleeting ghosts. He broke. "They cornered me on the bus. Mom called me. They knew somehow. Said I'd burn if I didn't repent." His voice splintered, tears carving paths down freckled cheeks. And Eleanor pulled him close, her own dam bursting. "Oh, Sean, my boy." She rocked him, the lie of her public venom cracking under the weight. "You're not broken. You're mine. And that's holy enough." That night, as Sean slept fitfully upstairs, Eleanor penned her first letter to an old college friend in Chicago, a woman who'd left the faith years ago for a life unapologetic. "Help me find a way out," she wrote, the pen trembling. "For him. For us." Dawn brought no answers, only the plow rumbling down Main Street, scraping away the night's confessions. But in that scrape, Eleanor heard the faint grind of Chanhea path emerging, slow as thawing earth. Spring unfurled tentatively, dogwoods blushing pink against the gray of lingering skies. And with it came the annual church picnic, a ritual of potato salad and veiled inquisitions. Eleanor arrived early, her famous apple pie cooling on the checkered cloth. Sean trailing behind with a forced smile that didn't reach his eyes. Harlan presided like a king, his laughter booming over the frisbee games. But his gaze lingered on Sean, sharp as a hawk's. "Fine boy you've raised, Eleanor," he boomed, clapping Sean's shoulder hard enough to bruise. Though these days, with all the temptations, he trailed off, implication heavy as humidity. Eleanor laughed it off, her voice a brittle chime. "Praying hard for all our young ones. Elder, the world's full of snares." Inside, rage simmered a mother's fury at the casual cruelty masked as concern. Later, as families dispersed, she found Sean by the riverbank, skipping stones with a vengeance that sent ripples wide. "I can't breathe here anymore," he said, voice low, a stone plunking into the murk. "It's like the water's pulling me under." She sat beside him, mud seeping into her skirt, and for the first time, voiced the unthinkable. "Then we fight to surface. Son. Together. I've been writing to someone places where you can be. You. Without the pretending." Hope flickered in his eyes, fragile as mayfly wings. But it was enough to carry them through the picnic's aftermath. Whispers followed them home. Miriam's concerned call about youthful confusions, and Eleanor met it with her armored disdain, quoting scripture that twisted her gut. Yet in private, the mask slipped. Evenings became confessions, Sean sharing sketches from his hidden journal, Eleanor admitting the letters piling up in her drawer, addresses in brighter cities glowing like beacons. Summer heat baked Willow Creek into torpor, cicadas droning a relentless hymn of endurance. Sean turned 17 in July, the milestone marked by a clandestine drive to the next county over, where they picnicked under oaks far from prying eyes. Eleanor unpacked sandwiches wrapped in wax paper, her hands steadier now, and watched Sean laugh freely for the first time in months. A sound like church bells cleansed of judgment. "Tell me about Chicago," he urged, crumbs on his chin, and she spun tales from her friends' replies, rainbow flags waving unashamed. Cafes where love was just love, no sermons attached. But freedom's promise sharpened the chains. At school, as senior year loomed, the bullying escalated. Notes shoved into lockers, graffiti scrawled on his stalled door. Sean withdrew, his art turning abstract storms of charcoal fury, while Eleanor doubled her shifts, socking away tips in a coffee-can-marked future. Harlan's influence swelled. A purity pledge drive swept the youth group, binders thrust at Sean like shackles. He signed it in the church office, pen shaking. Eleanor's nod from the hallway, a silent scream of solidarity. One sweltering August night, the dam broke wide. A bonfire prayer vigil on the church lawn, flames leaping like accusations. And Harlan called Sean forward for a special blessing. The circle closed in, hands raised, voices murmuring exorcisms for sins unnamed. Sean froze, sweat beading like tears, and Eleanor surged from the shadows, her voice cutting through the chant. Enough. It was a whisper shout, masked as maternal concern, but it halted the rite. He's just a boy needing guidance, not spectacle. Harlan's eyes narrowed, suspicion flickering, but the crowd dispersed, murmuring approval of her fervor. In the truck ride home, Sean shattered. "I hate this place. I hate me here." Sobs racked him, raw as open fields, and Eleanor pulled over, the engine ticking like a heartbeat. "You don't hate you, Sean. And neither do I. This idiot's theirs, not ours. We're leaving soon. I promise." She held him as thunder rumbled distant, a storm mirroring their turmoil. And in that vulnerability, bonds reforged stronger than steel. Fall semester dawned crisp, leaves carpeting the high school lot like fallen soldiers. And Sean navigated it with cautious armor head down, smiles measured. Eleanor, meanwhile, orchestrated their escape in whispers, job leads in Chicago. A sublet apartment sketched on napkins. Her public facade held. Venomous quips at women's circle about the gay agenda infiltrating schools. Each one a dagger to her heart. But doubt crept in. What if the world beyond Willow Creek proved just as unforgiving? Nights brought dreams of Tom's gentle voice, urging her onward, love fierce. Ellie, that's the gospel. The breaking point came mid-October. Harvest moon fat and accusatory overhead. A town hall meeting at Street. Mary's, called to discuss protecting our children from moral decay. With Harlan thundering about school curricula, pushing unnatural lifestyles. Whispers pointed fingers toward the new counselor. Toward kids like that boy Harper. Sean, dragged along for support, sat rigid in the back pew. Eleanor's hand a lifeline in his. When Harlan's gaze swept the room and landed. Venomous. On Sean, we must root out the weeds before they choke the garden. The air thickened to choke. A murmur rose. Eyes turning. And Sean bolted. The door banging like Judgment Day. Eleanor followed. Heart pounding. Into the night air sharp as betrayal. On the steps. Under sodium lamps buzzing like angry bees. She faced Harlan's advancing shadow. Leave my son be. She hissed. Mask cracking wide. Your garden's full of thorns. Not weeds. The confrontation rippled outward. A stone in still water. By morning, the town buzzed. Eleanor's hysteria dissected over coffee. Harlan's allies circling like crows. Sean, barricaded in his room, packed a duffel with trembling hands, journals, sketches, the locket from his father. We go now? He asked, voice small as a child's. Eleanor nodded. The coffee can emptied into her purse. Tonight, under cover of dark. They fled at midnight. Taillights fading into the river road. Willow Creek receding like a bad dream. The drive north stretched endless. Radio humming soft country laments. Sean's head against the window. Tears silent. Eleanor gripped the wheel. Freedom tasting bittersweet relief laced with grief for the life left behind. The friends who'd never understand. Dawn broke over Indiana fields, painting the sky in hues of redemption. And as the first billboards for Chicago gleamed, Sean stirred. Thanks, Mom, for pretending. For everything. In the city that swallowed them whole, they rebuilt from ashes. A cramped walk-up in Boys Town. Eleanor's diner job traded for a bookstore clerk's quiet hours. Sean enrolling in community college with eyes wide at the kaleidoscope of lives unashamed. The church's shadow lingered, letters from Miriam pleading repentance. Harlan's pamphlets in the mail, but distance dulled their sting. Sean bloomed. Art classes where his portraits of intertwined souls earned nods. Not scorn. A tentative first date under strung lights. Eleanor's watchful smile from afar a benediction. Years folded like pages in a well-loved book. Sean, at 22, graduated with a degree in graphic design. His thesis a mural of resilient figures emerging from thorns, dedicated to the woman who'd worn hatred like chainmail for his sake. Eleanor, gray threading fully through her hair, found solace in a progressive congregation where sermons spoke of radical grace. Her voice now raised in advocacy, not deception. The scar of Willow Creek remained, a faint line across their shared heart, but it taught them the depth of love's endurance. One crisp autumn eve, mirroring the one they'd fled, they stood by Lake Michigan's edge, waves lapping like forgiving tongues. Sean, arm linked with his boyfriend's a kind-eyed teacher from the neighborhood, turned to Eleanor. You saved me, Mom. Not just from them, but from hating myself. She cupped his face, freckles faded but spirit undimmed, and whispered, we saved each other, son. In the pretending, I found my truth. Love doesn't pretend. It protects. It persists. It prevails. The city hummed around them like a living thing. All neon veins and concrete bones. A far cry from the sleepy pulse of Willow Creek. Eleanor's first weeks in Chicago were a blur of orientation. The L trains rattle a symphony of anonymity. The corner bodega's shelves stocked with foods she'd only seen in magazines. She secured the walk-up sight unseen, a third-floor walk-up with peeling wallpaper and a view of fire escapes tangled like vines, but it was theirs. Paid month to month from her severance and the kindness of her college friend, Lydia, who'd wired emergency funds with a note. Breathe free. Sister, you've earned it. Sean adapted faster. His artist's eye drinking in the murals splashed across alley walls. Colors screaming what Willow Creek had silenced. He enrolled at Harold Washington College, commuting on a battered bike, his sketchpad always tucked under arm. Classes were revelations. A sociology prof with a rainbow pin on her lapel dissecting power structures in faith communities. An English seminar where Walt Whitman's verses rang like anthems. This is what living feels like, he'd tell Eleanor over takeout pizza on the fire escape, steam curling into the dusk. His laughter unbridled now, a sound she'd feared lost forever. Yet shadows clung. Sleepless nights brought dreams of Harlan's gravel voice, echoing accusations that jolted Eleanor awake. Sheets twisted like accusations. She'd pad to the kitchenette, brew chamomile in a chipped mug, and stare at the skyline towers piercing heaven without a steeple in sight. Guilt gnawed. Had she failed Tom by not leaving sooner? Had her deceptions scarred Sean indelibly? Lydia's visits helped. Her friend's bohemian loft a haven of incense and open talks. You did what mothers do, Lydia said one rainy afternoon. Passing a joint, Eleanor declined with a wry smile. You armored up. Now, let the armor rust. Sean's own ghosts surfaced in subtler ways. At a campus LGBTQ+ meetup, amid rainbow stickers and shared stories. He froze when a newcomer recounted conversion therapy scars, electric prayers, and shame that lingered like tattoos. Sounds like home, Sean muttered later, curled on the thrift store couch, Eleanor's hand stroking his hair as if he were 10 again. But you're not there, baby. You're here, with people who see your light. She shared her own vulnerabilities, then the terror of that basement confession. The bile rising with every false word at prayer circle. Pretending hollowed me, but loving you. That filled every crack. Winter in Chicago bit deeper than Ohio's. Wind off the lake whipping scarves like flags of defiance. They celebrated Sean's 18th birthday in a queer-owned bakery. Cupcakes frosted in blue and pink. Lydia toasting with mimosas. To new chapters. She clinked. And Sean, cheeks flushed, pulled out a sketch, Eleanor as a warrior queen. Shield emblazoned with a heart pierced by thorns but blooming roses. For you, he said, voice thick. And she wept tears of release. Not regret for the boy who'd become a man under her flawed protection. Spring brought tentative steps outward. Eleanor volunteered at a hotline for LGBTQ+ youth. Her voice honeyed Midwestern calm, a lifeline for callers echoing her son's pain. You're not alone, she'd assure. The words balm for her own wounds. Sean landed an internship at a design firm in Wicker Park. His posters for Pride events earning quiet praise. Each line a reclamation. Dates came shyly, a barista with curly hair and a poet's wit. Coffee turning to walks in Lincoln Park. Hands brushing accidental than intentional. But Willow Creek's tendrils reached even here. A package arrived in May. Forwarded from their old address, Harlan's latest tract. Pages dog-eared with warnings of eternal fire for unrepentant souls. Addressed to Sean with a postscript, come home. Boy. Redemption awaits. Sean burned it in the sink. Flames dancing like vindication. But the ash left a bitter taste. They'll never stop, he said, voice edged with steel. Eleanor nodded, pulling him close. Then we don't stop either. We live louder. Summer sizzled. The city, pulsing with festivals, pried a riot of color that drowned old fears. They marched together. Eleanor's sign reading Mothers for Love. Sean's arm linked with his boyfriend, Marcus, the barista whose smile crinkled like well-worn pages. Confetti rained. Drums thrummed. And for a moment, Eleanor glimpsed eternity not in pews, but in the collective exhale of hidden hearts laid bare. Yet growth demands confrontation. In July, a call from Miriam, voice quavering over crackling lines, begged reconciliation. Harlan's ill. Ellie. Heart like Tom's. Come for the funeral. If not for us. Eleanor wavered. The pull of shared history, a gravity well. Sean, overhearing, tensed. Don't go alone. So they drove south. The old truck groaning over miles. Chicago's sprawl yielding to familiar flats. Willow Creek hadn't changed, same river bend. Same steeple-piercing low clouds. The funeral was a somber affair. Pews filled with faces etched by time. Harlan's casket draped in white, like false purity. Whispers greeted them, the Harpers. Back from Sin City, but Eleanor held her chin high. Sean's hand firm in hers. After. In the graveyard mist. Miriam approached. Eyes red-rimmed. He spoke of you at the end. Sean. Said he prayed for your soul. Sean met her gaze. Voice steady. Tell him mine's just fine. And so's my mom's. The drive north was cathartic. Words spilling like unstopped rain, regrets aired. Forgiveness forged in highway miles. You were my shield, Sean said, as Cleveland lights twinkled welcome. Now, let's be each other's compass. Fall deepened their roots. Sean proposed a tattoo matching thorns encircling wrists. Roses budding at the tips, a permanent vow. Eleanor hesitated, then inked it bold. The buzz, a hymn of rebirth. At 20, Sean moved into a shared apartment with Marcus. Walls soon papered in his art, while Eleanor downsized to a studio. Her hotline shifts blooming into full-time counseling. Years accelerated. Seasons blurring into milestones. Sean's designs graced gallery walls. Themes of hidden loves and fierce guardians earning quiet acclaim. Eleanor, at 50, published a slim memoir, Veils of Faith, anonymized but raw. Stories of maternal deception as quiet revolution. Book signings drew tearful thanks from parents echoing her path. Their hugs a circle closing. One eve in their mid-40s and late 20s. They revisited Lake Michigan, now with Marcus and Lydia in tow. Picnic basket brimming. Waves whispered wisdom. And Sean raised a toast to the pretend that set us free. Eleanor smiled. Thorns faded to faint lines on her wrist. To truth. Son. The one we always carried. Chicago's rhythm became their blood. Years weaving through like threads in Sean's evolving tapestries. At 23, he launched his first solo exhibit in a Logan Square gallery. Walls alive with pieces born of fracture and flight. Thornheart. A series of canvases depicting shadowed figures emerging into light. Thorns morphing to vines heavy with bloom. The opening night buzzed, critics murmuring. Collectors nodding, but Eleanor's presence, in a simple black dress with her rose-etched wrist bared, grounded him. This is you, Sean, she whispered amid the clink of wine glasses. Her pride a steady flame. Unhidden. Marcus, ever the anchor. Framed prints for their apartment. His teacher's patience a counterpoint to Sean's creative tempests. Their life together unfolded gently. Weekend farmers markets in Andersonville, where hand-holding drew smiles, not stares. Quiet anniversaries with homemade lasagna. Eleanor's recipe adapted with basil from the window box. Yet Marcus brought his own layers, a Southern Baptist upbringing shed like old skin. Stories shared over late-night cocoa that mirrored Sean's. forging brotherhood with Eleanor. She, at 47, found her calling deepen. The hotline evolved into a nonprofit arm of a larger center, Haven Hearts, where she led workshops for families navigating faith and identity. Her voice, once laced with feigned scorn, now carried the weight of lived grace, drawing crowds from suburbs wary as willow creeks. Love isn't a choice, she'd say, slides of anonymous letters flickering behind. But fear is. Choose courage. Lydia, her urban oracle, co-facilitated, their friendship a bridge from past to present. But echoes persisted. A 2015 news clip from Ohio, a bill pushing conversion in schools stirred old bile. Sean, scrolling on his laptop, slammed it shut. It's spreading. Mom. Like kudzu. They volunteered that weekend. Phone banking for allies. Sean's graphic skills crafting viral posters, fists clutching rainbows against thorny crowns. The fight reinvigorated. A reminder that escape was privilege, not erasure duty called to dismantle the walls others still battered against. Winter 2016 brought snowdrifts high as hopes. And with it, Sean's proposal to Marcus under the bean. Millennium Park's mirrored curve reflecting their joy infinite. Eleanor, invited to the intimate dinner reveal, arrived with champagne and tears. Yes, Marcus beamed, ring glinting like a promise. And she enveloped them, whispering, "My boys, you've made it holy." Planning ensued, a small ceremony in the lakeside park. Guests a tapestry of chosen family. No steeples required. Spring bloomed riotous. Cherry blossoms carpeting paths like confetti from their first pride. The wedding day dawned soft. June's sun gilding vows exchanged under an arch of wildflowers. Sean, in a linen suit tailored sharp, eyes locked on Marcus's as they promised fidelity through tempests. Eleanor, matron of honor in azure silk, read a passage from her memoir Words on Love's Quiet Rebellion, her voice steady, heart full. As they kissed, cheers rose, and she thought of that basement night, the lie that launched this truth. Post-honeymoon glow carried into summer. Sean and Marcus settling into a Pilsen row house. Walls echoing with laughter and late-night debates over lesson plans and logos. Eleanor visited often. Her studio a short L ride away, bearing pies and stories from workshops. At 50, she dated tentative a widower from the center. Gentle with books and bad puns their evenings walks along the lake. Hands tentative, healing old isolations. Yet crisis shadowed idle. Fall 2017. A call from Ohio Miriam. Frail now. Hospitalized after a stroke. Your mother's name on my lips. Sean. She rasped over speakerphone. Forgive. The blindness. They drove south. Marcus at the wheel. Eleanor navigating maps worn as memories. The hospital room smelled of antiseptic and regret. Miriam's hand frail in Sean's. I saw too late. She murmured. Eyes cloudy. Harlan. He feared his own shadows. No sermons. Just silence heavy with what-ifs. And as she slipped away days later, Sean closed her eyes. Thorns of the past blooming unexpected peace. The funeral, unlike Harlan's, was sparse a handful of kin. No elders thundering. In the graveyard, under oaks shedding gold, Sean scattered soil. Voice low. Rest easy. Aunt Mim. Love wins the long game. Driving back. Borders blurred. Ohio's flats giving way to Indiana's gentle rise. Conversations turning to legacy. We build havens. Eleanor said. Not just for us, but the ones still hiding. Winter deepened resolve. Sean, inspired, started a youth art program at Haven Hearts Canvas of Courage teens sketching stories silenced by faith's iron grip. His mentorship mirrored Eleanor's. Hands guiding pencils through pain to palette. Marcus taught history downtown, weaving queer icons into curricula. Their evenings collaged with student tales and gallery invites. Spring 2018 marked Eleanor's milestone. Veils of Faith hit small press success. Readings in Brooklyn and Seattle drawing standing ovations. Sean designed the tour poster, a veil lifting to reveal a mosaic heart, and joined her for the Chicago stop. Stage lights warm as hearth. To the pretenders who become protectors. She toasted the crowd. Voice carrying the town's ghosts redeemed. Summer brought expansion. Haven Hearts opened a satellite in Cleveland. Eleanor's brainchild bridging rural voids. Training sessions filled with Ohio transplants. Her story's a lodestar. Sean, 28 now. Balanced freelance with program lead. His exhibit Roots and Rainbows touring Midwest museums. Thorns fully flowered. One eve. Lakeside again. Family expanded Lydia's partner. A gaggle of workshop alums, they shared a bonfire. Flames dancing stories. Marcus strummed guitar. Soft folk of journeys home. And Sean leaned into Eleanor. You started this, Mom. The pretend that birthed our real. She smiled. Lines etching wisdom. We all did. Son. One fierce choice at a time. Time's river flowed swifter now, carving canyons of change in their lives. By 2020, Sean at 30, his career a vibrant vein through Chicago's creative pulse. Canvas of courage had ballooned. Chapters in Milwaukee and Indianapolis. Teens arriving with sketchpads clutched like shields. Eyes wary then wide as they rendered resilience. One boy. Echo of young Sean freckled. Ohio drawl sketched a mother veiled in thorns. Caption guardian lie. And Sean's throat tightened. Handing him charcoals with a nod. Draw the bloom next. Marcus thrived in academia. Tenure track at a community college. His classes on social justice packed with diverse faces hungry for narratives beyond binaries. Their home, once sparse, overflowed, shelves bowed under art books. Walls a gallery of student gifts, naive strokes of hope. Date nights evolved to quiet rituals, jazz clubs in Hyde Park. Hands intertwined. Whispers of future plans, adoption whispers. Dreams of little ones under their wing. Eleanor, 54. Helmed Haven Hearts with quiet command. Her memoir sequel in gestation, Unveiled Grace. Tales from the front lines of faith's fractures. Her relationship with David, the widower, deepened, shared Sabbaths and sermons. Hikes in Starved Rock where leaves rustled benedictions. He understood her scars. Tracing thorn tattoos with fingers kind. Murmuring. Strength's quietest form. Pandemic hit like a thief in spring. COVID's shadow cloaking the city in masks and distance. Galleries shuttered. Workshops virtual. But resilience rallied. Sean pivoted canvas online. Zoom squares filling with young faces from basements nationwide. Brushes dipping in shared vulnerability. Art doesn't quarantine. He'd quip. Screen glowing late. Marcus brewing tea beside. Eleanor adapted Haven calls to encrypted lines. Voices crackling from isolation wards of the soul, queer elders fearing deathbed judgments. Parents adrift in Zoom prayer chains. Quarantined in Pilsen. The trio Sean, Marcus, Eleanor crashing for safety forged deeper bonds. Kitchen table became command center, sourdough loaves rising like hopes. Board games laced with strategy talks. One night, power flickering. They unearthed old journals, Sean's basement poetry. Eleanor's escape letters reading aloud by candlelight. Laughter mingling with tears. We were warriors in whispers. Marcus marveled. And Eleanor squeezed his hand. Still are? Summer's unrest boiled over George Floyd's murder, igniting streets. Protests marching past their door. Sean joined. Signed Justice for All Hearts, inked bold. Marcus photographing for archives. Eleanor donating proceeds from virtual reads. The chaos mirrored inner storms. Sean's imposter doubts surfacing. Am I enough for this fight? Eleanor, over porch wine, countered. You were enough in that basement. The rest is bonus. Fall brought vaccines and tentative reopenings. But loss lingered, a canvas teen lost to despair's edge. Funeral virtual and hollow. Sean channeled grief into a memorial mural downtown, figures linking arms across divides. Thorns grounding roots in rainbow soil. Unveiling drew crowds. Eleanor's speech, a eulogy for the unseen. We remember to rage, to create, to love louder. 2021 dawned, vaccine bright. Life unfurling. Sean and Marcus pursued fostering. Paperwork, a labyrinth of interviews where pasts were probed like wounds. Willow Creek shaped us. Sean wrote in essays, but didn't break us. Approval came spring. Their first placement, a 12-year-old named Riley, non-binary. Foster system weary. Eyes like Sean's at that age. Guarded yet gleaming. Eleanor mentored from afar. Drop-ins with cookies and stories. Watching Riley sketch under Sean's guidance, lines softening from jagged to fluid. David joined family barbecues. His steady presence, a new normal. Summer pride roared back. Parades electric. There flowed a canvas float. Kids art waving defiant. Autumn harvest. They gathered lakeside. Riley wide-eyed at the expanse. Over Esmores. Sean shared his origin tale, the pretend. The flight, Riley nodding. My aunt tried that. Lies to save me. Hurt worse. Eleanor leaned in. Voice soft thunder. Lies protect short. Truth endures. You're safe sketching yours here. Winter wrap gentle. Holidays hybrid. Zoom toasts with Lydia. In-person feasts with David. Sean's exhibit, pandemic petals, thorns blooming amid wilted vines, sold out. Proceeds to grief support. Marcus published a paper on queer history in curricula, dedicating to the architects of our home. 2022 accelerated. Riley's adoption finalized summer. A courtroom moment, tears and triumph. Eleanor's vow as witness, families chosen. Fierce as blood. Sean, 32. Balanced dad duties with a book deal drawn from shadows. Illustrated memoir weaving art and escape. Eleanor, 56. Launched Unveiled Grace. Tour hitting Heartland, stops cautious returns to Ohio edges. Workshops in Dayton drawing furtive attendees. One night. Post-reading. A woman approached. My boys like yours was. How do I start? Eleanor handed her card. Heart full. With one honest word. Fall leaves turned. Family hike in Indiana Dunes. Riley scampering ahead. Sean and Marcus hand in hand. Eleanor, arm linked with David. Paused at a vista. Look what pretending built. She murmured. Sean grinned back. A life without masks. The years post-adoption cascaded like Lake Michigan's waves, relentless. Renewing. Riley, at 14 in 2024. Navigated middle school, mazes with Sean's sketches as armor. Marcus's history lessons as map. Non-binary flags pinned to backpacks drew stares. But Chicago's mosaic buffered blows. Therapy sessions at Haven Hearts unpacked foster scars. Riley's voice emerging strong. Pronouns affirmed in family chants. Sean, 34. Juggled fatherhood, withdrawn from shadows, release bestseller in niche circles. Reviews praising its raw humanity. Book tours pulled him coast to coast. Marcus and Riley tagging for California legs. Beaches a balm to urban edges. Eleanor joined Midwest stops. Panel discussions on maternal myths. Her quips disarming crowds, pretending's a poor proxy for presence. Eleanor's life. At 58. Balanced advocacy with personal bloom. David proposed on a quiet anniversary, no flash. Just a lakeside walk. Rings simple as their vows. Wedding small. Pilsen backyard. Riley officiating with rehearsed gravity. Sean beaming paternal pride. To thorns that teach. David toasted. And Eleanor. Veil-free. Laughed tears. Haven hearts expanded. Grants funding rural outposts won in Zanesville, Ohio. A stone's throw from Willow Creek ghosts. Eleanor oversaw remotely. But a site visit stirred sediment. Driving familiar roads. River glinting accusatory. She detoured to the old bungalow sold now. Swing creaking empty. Street. Mary's loomed. Harlan long dust. New pastor's sign preaching inclusive grace. Inside. Tentative. A youth group circled discussing identity. No thunders. A teen. Echoing Sean. Shared haltingly. Eleanor. Guest speaker. Nodded. I once hid my boy's light to shield it. Don't hide yours, let it lead. Back in Chicago. She shared over dinner. Family table laden. Riley. Fort paused. Asked. Did it hurt? The pretending. Eleanor met eyes around the circle. Sean's knowing. Marcus is warm. David's steady. Like fire. But ashes make soil for stronger roots. 2025 dawned crisp. Current date marking October's turn. Leaves a flame in Grant Park. Sean. 35. Prepped a major commission, Chicago History Museum mural. Threads of tenacity, figures from indigenous to immigrant. Queer warriors woven in. Thorns grounding every arc. Riley. 16. Apprenticed. Brush in hand. Identity fluid as paint. Marcus chaired his department. Curriculum reforms rippling statewide. His book echoes unsilenced launching fall. Eleanor. 60. Eyed semi-retirement, consulting gigs. More time for David's garden plots. Volunteer trips to foster fairs. Unveiled grace, too percolated. Chapters on legacy. Mid-month. A letter arrived not from past, but future, a canvas alum. Now artist in New York. Inviting Sean to guest lecture. Enclosed. A sketch, Eleanor as thorn-crowned matriarch. Caption, the original bloom. He framed it mantle-side. Family photo array beside timelines layered. From basement boy to mural man. October 23rd. Bonfire at the lake. Annual rite. Winds whipped waves. Stars pricking velvet sky. Riley. Voice deepening. Read original poem verses of found family. Masks melted. Marcus strummed accompaniment. David passed marshmallows. Sean. Arm round Eleanor. Murmured. We made it. Mom. All the way. She gazed horizonward. Water's edge blurring past and promise. Not made it. Son. Making it. Every day. With you all. Fire crackled. Sparks ascending like prayers redeemed. And in that glow, their story begun in deception's basement unfolded infinite. A testament to love's long, luminous hall. Yet the narrative didn't end there. It echoed forward. Sean's mural unveiling drew throngs. Mayor's speech lauding Chicago's beating heart. Riley's brushstrokes highlighted. Pride swelling teen chest. Eleanor. Front row. Clutched David's hand. Thorns on wrist catching light symbol now. Not scar. Post-ceremony reception. Alumni clustered. That Zanesville teen from street. Mary's. Now out and advocating. Your talk changed me. They said to Eleanor. Gave words to my silence. She hugged fierce. Then carry them home. Light the way. Evening waned. Family dispersing to homes woven close. Sean and Marcus tucked Riley in. Story of their own, origins the pretend that propelled. Tomorrow's blank canvas. Sean whispered. Paint bold. Eleanor and David walked Lake Path. Steps synced. Our story's the best one, he said. She smiled. Stars reflecting in eyes. Because it's ours flawed. Fierce. Forever. As autumn deepened into winter's embrace, The Harper clan's rhythms held steady against the chill. Sean's mural became a touchstone. School groups sketching its lines. Riley leading tours with a confidence that beamed. At 17, Riley explored theater auditions for a queer youth production. Shadows to stage. Lines memorized over breakfast. Family cheers echoing rehearsals. Eleanor, 61 by New Year's, embraced mentorship's mantle. Haven Hart's rural program thrived. Her quarterly visits to Ohio a pilgrimage of progress. Workshops in repurposed barns. Parents nodding through tears. I see my child now. Not the problem. One evening, post-session, a father confessed. I preached against it once. Like your story. She shared the basement hook. Voice steady, words wound. But withdrawal heals. Start with listening. David's garden yielded summer's bounty, tomatoes red as redemption, shared at block parties where neighbors swapped tales. Eleanor's thorn tattoo sparking curiosities met with grace. Sean, 36, inked a companion piece for Riley, vines entwining family wrists. A custom right before college apps loomed. Spring 2026 burst verdant. Riley accepted to NYU's Tisch Drama Dreams, deferred no more. Graduation ceremony. Cap tassel swinging. Family swelled, Lydia. Alumni chorus. Sean's speech. Valedictorian nod. Wove personal thread, from hidden sketches to public stages. We claim our narratives. Pretend no more. Perform. Summer send-off. Cross-country drive, Chicago to New York. Pit stops at diners echoing Eleanor's youth. In a Pennsylvania motel. Rain lashing windows. Riley asked, Grandma, Elda pretending. Would you again? Eleanor paused. Lightning framing face. For love. Yes. But I'd end it sooner. With truer allies. Fall settled Riley in dorms. Video calls brimming updates, first queer theater club. Sketches mailed home. Sean and Marcus nested emptier. Volunteering more, foster trainings. Art for at-risk youth. Sean's next book. Vines of Victory. Co-authored with Riley. Hit shelves. Illustrations teen bold. Eleanor, 62. Received an honor, Ohio Human Rights Award. Ironic laurel from Roots. Acceptance speech. Columbus stage. Eyes on old faces. Cruelty's church taught me compassion's cathedral. We build bridges, not walls. Applause thundered. Sean in wings. Pride paternal. Winter 2027. Family Christmas, Riley home. Production clips, shared role as thorn-wearing teen. Lines searing. David's proposal for Hawaii trip. 50th for Eleanor. Accepted gleeful. Waves crashed aloha. Snorkels revealing coral kingdoms, metaphors murmured over luau's. Life's undercurrents. Beautiful in depth. Spring renewal. Sean's gallery retrospective, from basement to beacon. Pieces spanning decades. Basement poem framed beside final mural studies. Opening. Riley emceeing. Marcus curating. Eleanor unveiling a new, maternal mask. Abstract veils lifting to maternal gaze. Summer pride. Multi-generational march, Riley on float. Sean designing banners. Marcus chanting. David and Eleanor linking arms. Confetti swirled. Drums pulsed. A loop closed from solitary flight to communal roar. Fall harvest. Lakeside bonfire redux. Riley, 18. Toasted to the lie that birthed our legacy. Sean added, and the love that sustains it. Eleanor, gazing flames, whispered to David, our story's the seed. They've grown the forest. Yet trials threaded on, a Haven backlash in rural outpost protesters picketing. Echoes of Harlan. Eleanor faced them calm. Megaphone in hand, fear fades. Family endures. Media spun sympathetic. Donations surged. Resolve steeled. Winter's hush brought reflection. Sean journaled for next project graphic novel of their saga. Anonymized for safety. Marcus mentored Riley remotely. College balancing acting with activism. 2028 dawned. Eleanor 63. Health check flagging routine shadow on lung scan. Biopsy pending. Family rallied. Appointments attended en masse. Riley flying mid-semester. Benign. Relief flooded. But pivot profound. Eleanor's will updated. Letters penned to each. To Sean. You were my mirror. My might. To Riley. Bloom unapologetic. To Marcus and David. Grateful for the weave. Spring therapy circles. She shared scare. Mortality's mass pretend you're invincible. It slips. Laughter lightened. Bonds brightened. Summer wedding bells. Riley's college romance culminating. Small ceremony lakeside. Family officiants rotating. Vows echoed originals, thorns acknowledged. Roses promised. Fall exhibit. Sean's novel launch, Thorn Tales. Bestseller buzz. Tours with Eleanor co-reading. One stop. Ohio bookstore. Willow Creek pilgrims attending. Handshakes hesitant then heartfelt. Winter solstice. Bonfire pinnacle. Stars wheeled. Waves sang. Riley's poem recited anew, addendum of growth. Sean. 39. Arm round Marcus. Our arc's the proof from cruelty's grip to grace's grasp. Eleanor. Firelit. Raised mug to pretending's end. Humanity's heart. Cheers rose. Eternal as the lake's depth.